Greetings, Montana leaders. My name is Kirk Miller, and I'm the Executive Director of School Administrators of Montana. And I'm happy to be with you today to introduce a two-part video series that has been created that outlines some wonderful work that's taken place over the past year. The first part of the series is Sir Michael Fullen presenting his change theory and leadership for educators across the state of Montana. That was produced at the SAM Administrators Institute in July of 2014. The second part of the series is SAM's own 21st Century Leadership Institute program, which is a project-based, embedded, technology-driven professional learning that's available to all administrators across the state of Montana. And Tom Unwin does a fine job of describing and getting that program ready to go. I hope that you'll enjoy. This is something we're very proud of, and please let us know what you think.
Standing up again. Welcome. It is wonderful to be back again. I've had a chance to talk with many of you over the last 4 or 5 days. It's great to get reacquainted and every time I come here, I get more and more in love with Montana and the reports that you're doing. So it's wonderful to be back. The document that has our agenda on it. Your table looks like this. Here's what I'm hoping to do today. That we'll go over the content about how we've designed our program. You'll see everything that's laid out in front of you. That's one of the great improvements I think we've made this year. Talking to the people who are coming back in their second year, I want to say thank you for sticking with us. I'm going to go over the content. We're going to go over some of the data collection tools, how we're going to kind of benchmark our progress through the year and how we're going to organize that. Our operating model, we've added mentors and coaches to the program. We're going to get into those introductions in a minute. Kirk, could you maybe just start out with a little thing about the regions, how we're organizing ourselves right now with the regions. And what I'd like to do is to kind of organize you in your regional groups. Okay, so
what we would want to do is it's the 9 mass regions. I know that there's principals and other that might have regions that are with your group, but we settled in on 9 different regions. So because we have 9 providers that are out there, and that's the way that we'd like to make it work. And hopefully you'll be able to build relationships with that provider that's in your region, but it also gives the opportunity potentially for you to gather if you needed to gather, because of the great distances that you have to travel.
Starting out here, it's almost better to do this physically than any other kind of way so we can see what we're trying to do, okay? We're putting you in these regional groups. Each regional group has a provider, okay? So what I'd like to do right now is not individually, but just identify your group, who the provider is. Okay, so we can see the layout of the land here. How we're going to operate today, we're going to go back and forth from the PowerPoint that I have here to the documents that you have in front of you. So the one I want to start with, you do have these documents, right? It may be a little bit difficult for you to see these on the screen. So the first document that I'd like you to pull out is this one here. It's called this conceptual framework. It's a really pretty colored thing. What it is a picture, a visual. It's a picture of how we organize the program. That's the document. So I'll walk you through this, and again, it's a picture of how we organize the program. It helps me, and I hope helps you, not only see the organizational structure, but it also is providing a rationale for the way we organize the program, but also I get an opportunity to talk to you about and get some feedback. Okay? Starting with the box at the top, the school. We're going to do some work on this in a couple of minutes. We think about, when we're starting out and designing our program, we think about what is the unit of change. So we're going to use as the unit of change the school. Within that box, I've got some descriptions. If you remember last year, there were 9 essentials, functions. Played around with that a little bit and reorganized it. There's 11. Organized the things that happen in schools. We've got kind of a common language to speak about when we're thinking about what our schools are organized. But this is the thing we want to change. This is the thing we're working on. first part of our mental model. Okay? Second, if we're thinking about changing schools and making an impact on them, and that's our business, what we did was we said, okay, what kind of research is there out there that would help us formulate a good plan? We want to make research-based decisions here about organizing our professional learning around what the best minds say needs to be done in order to change schools, or change schools around and improve them. We picked Michael Fuller, making that connection the other day. How many of you here were here in see Fuller? Oh, great. Yesterday, after the Fulham presentation on Tuesday, I must have heard Fulham's name from people that were talking 20 or 30 times. It seemed that it resonated with much of the work that's being done out here. It's also the basis of how we've organized our program. And that wasn't just a coincidence, by the way. As this program evolved, as Kirk and I were working on it and working with you, it became very evident that somehow we bumped into Fulham. Remember last January, we pulled out his book and kind of studied it together as a piece of content, and it's formed the basis of the development of the program. Okay? So, we used the book Motion Leadership. Fulham talked a little bit about it on Tuesday, and when we started talking about this and examining it, developing it as the basis for how we were going to develop our program, a few big ideas emerged from the book. And one of them was collaboration, or teacher collaboration, is key. So that big idea is that if we're going to change schools, the research says that you're going to do it with teacher collaboration. So how that plays out into our professional learning program is, this institute is all about building the capacity of your schools to collaborate, to improve themselves, and improve student achievement. So that's where we are in our diagram here. Fulham tells us that the core business of our work together over the next year is to develop that teacher collaboration. If we want to improve schools, we have to do it through teacher collaboration. Top-down doesn't work. Bottom-up doesn't work. You've got to work with your people to make the changes and improve things. He spent the whole day talking about this. It was the major part of the content that we talked about on Tuesday. So that's the first piece of our business. The second big idea from Fulham, we reinforced this over and over and over again yesterday or Tuesday, was you learn by doing. So we took that idea and built it into our professional learning program by saying, okay, we're going to be working on teacher collaboration, but the thing we want people to do is to select a project focused on student learning that they're going to be implementing as they build those collaborative skills in their schools. So that's the next pillar here that came out of Fulham. Teacher collaboration is going to do it. We're going to learn how to go about doing that, building the capacity in schools. The aim of all this work is to do a project. We're going to learn it by doing it as we go. So we're going to have a project. That's what we're going to do. I'm hoping that we get launched on today. At least leave here with some ideas about what we're going to do. Third big idea is leader as learner. And where we pull this out now is say, okay, if it's your job to build a collaboration capacity in your school, as you work on a project to improve student learning, you're going to need some tools and skills. That's what Fulham says. You're going to learn as you go with those people on your staff or in your teams. So what we pulled out here is another set of research that we're using the Marzano thing as a model. We can use anything we want to flip back and forth, but we're starting out with Marzano's work on balanced leadership. He identifies 21 attributes of a leader that are highly correlated with high student achievement in schools. So that's our pillar. Okay. That's how we're operating. These two brackets, either and, on your side, the one on the left is the mentors, and the one on the right is the professional development. So how this all works, you can see the arrows connecting with one another. working on teacher collaboration on a project that involves learning. We're building our own capacity and leadership skills as we go along. That's how we put things together. I want to stop here, and I want to go back to this idea of the unit of change. So what I think we have to get in our heads, so for some of you it's going to be very easy. For some of you, I think you might need some help with your teams to do this. It's a little more difficult. What is the thing you're changing? So if I'm a principal, I think this is real easy. I'm changing my school. That's the unit I'm changing. If I'm a superintendent, I'm changing the schools in my district. So it may be one school, it may be several schools. So my unit is 3 schools. I'm improving again. Just getting a mental picture of what we're working on. Some of you have a little bit more difficulty. How many principals? Okay. You're pretty well set here. Okay. But there's other job titles where you have to identify what you're going to be able to change. So what I'd like you to do at your tables right now is to go around the room and say, here's my unit of change. Going back to this diagram here, let me just try to summarize what I heard and maybe get some feedback from you if stuff I pulled out of what you're saying makes sense. The first thing is, this work is complex. It's complex. And I'm not saying that in a way to scare us. I'm saying it in a way that we understand what we're getting into. It's a difficult, challenging task. But when you listen to what people were saying here, my sense was it's so doable because of the strengths in the room. It is doable. And it seems that what we have a kind of a consensus about, we have different kinds of organizations or units that we're working on to try to change. That varies quite a bit. But this is the common thread that ties everybody together. I think virtually everybody said they want to learn how to get their schools, how to get their teachers collaborating with one another to make a difference in that school, to improve student learning. So this is the common thread, and this is the core of what our business is here together. So I think we're headed in the right direction. Now, other thing I'd like to do right now is we've kind of given you a picture of our structure and how we're organized. I wouldn't mind getting some feedback from just a larger group. We don't have to break down into groups to do this. Any thoughts or ideas on how we've structured this program? Positive, negative ideas?
Tom, I really appreciate the visual and how it also, this appeals to me as a learner. So thank you for putting the work into this. Based on my performance talk on Monday, I would say these arrows at the top go both ways. So we're learning from our students and they're learning from us.
Yes.
We're learning from our leaders and they're learning from us. So that would be just a change, but I appreciate this structure.
Good, good. And again, norms and values about the way we work together, this is good. This is, we want to build on our ideas, and that's how we operate together here as a group. And I think that's what you want to get going in your own schools when you're working with your teachers. So when you see this kind of stuff coming up, of somebody saying, hey, I see a way to improve this, that's a really good, positive thing. So thank you very much. Okay. And yeah, I think there's some arrows missing in this. And the whole purpose of this kind of visual for me is, it's a way of getting us to talk about it. You know, you actually point at something and say, I think there's something here. And it's very simple and easy. And it works for me so that I understand it. Okay? So we're working on teacher collaboration and doing all sorts of different things in our schools. One of the things, more thoughts or ideas about the way we structured things.
I might have missed this, but where does the research come from for the 11 functions of the IHE school? Is that full or?
That's Tom.
That's you.
Yeah, all I did there, Paul, was I took, all of the ISLIC standards are how we, and they're different in every state and organization. I just try to compose them in a way that would have some meaning for us. So it's not a right or wrong thing, but the base of it came from all of the different ways states have organized standards for leadership. Okay. Thanks. Dale?
Well, last year you tried to launch the website and the communication tool on the Educational Leader Thought Network. And unfortunately, we didn't use it well, and we all went back and worked in isolation. I think you have to make that effort again, because if we're going to have this dialogue here, we have to have this dialogue when we're not here. And so please get that involved somehow.
Okay, it's coming, it's gonna come in a few minutes. And yes, you're absolutely right. We didn't do that well last year. We had this picture in our head about if you build something, people are just gonna go to it because it's a very neat, effective, efficient way to work. That's not how those online networks work. We're looking at ways, we've rebuilt it, and we'll show you how. We're going to get on it today, hopefully. And what we've learned is that you have to put value in there. People will go in there and work when there's something of value for them to go in there for, and we have to find out what that is from you. And the providers, I'm hoping, and the way you're organizing your groups, giving us feedback, we'll build that stuff as we go. But it's going to be a big part of how we operate. Okay. Thank you, Deb. Here's what I want to do next. We've talked about where you might be heading with your projects. And everybody talked a little bit about developing their collaborative capacity. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to go over here and clean this. What I want, I'm going to go through this description. And whatever your groups are, what I'd like you to do is get a mental bead on where you are in the development of your PLC or your teacher collaboration or teacher teams or whatever you want to call it. And then what I want to do is, a leader, you're going to talk about this in your groups. I'm going to give you the description, and you're going to say, I'm a principal of the school. After we go through the description, you're going to say, I'm about here. We're going to work on this together. The leader will gather this information up as you talk in your groups, and we're only going to have about 5 minutes for this. So as I go through the description, think about where your PLC stands, and then the leader will report out on this group is about here, Mark's group is about here, and we're going to get a feel at the end of this, as we quickly move from table to table, where the whole group is in the development of PLCs. Some of you will be here, we haven't started. Right. This stage here, and as I go through it, you're going to say, yeah, I'm about there. Okay. This stage here we might call pre-launch, beginning. And the key factor is you probably haven't started to meet yet. If you're in the pre-launch stage, you haven't had meetings. But you're talking about it in your school, and you're formulating some ideas about getting started. When you move, you might call this 0 here, and this 1.0 right here, if you want to put numbers. Okay. So this would be 0, and if you've had quite a few talks, and you're almost ready to start, you might be a 0.8 or 0.9. The dividing point is that you've started to have some meetings. And most of you said that you had. Most of you said, you know, we started meeting last year, but it didn't work or whatever. But if you started having meetings, you're at the emerging level. You're somewhere in here. Okay? Level 2, because this is really not a level. This is getting started, getting your ideas together. And then you start meeting as a group. This is 1.0. You might call this 2.0. And the crossing point here is if your PLC is starting to discuss student learning and working directly on it. In this stage, you might be talking about how you're working together, establishing norms, figuring out how you're organized, those kinds of things, establishing yourself. You cross into 2 when that team starts talking about student learning and you become a proficient. You've built your skills, you've got some collaboration capacity, you're able to work together, that's what you're sorting out here. You cross over into proficient when you are able to start talking about student learning in some form and how you're going to improve things for kids in their learning. Okay? You cross over to 3 into exemplary when you become extremely proficient at doing that. And the key crossing over into 3 when would be when you're able to report the data out and directly relate it to the work of your PLC. Okay? That's what we're going to do. This is just my own definitions here. Okay? I just pulled this out of my head. Based on the reading that I did with you, Ford, Cord, and the rest of them, they have maybe a little bit different structure. The idea is the same. There's stages in the development of your collaboration.